Hey Toy fans, I'm D21 Beast and welcome back to Project Geek Week. With me today I've got Greg.
Hey there.
So we've been gone a couple of weeks. I've had some personal stuff going on, and as you can see, JT's not here. He's also got some personal stuff going on this week, but we're going to try to get back on schedule for you guys here with a little bit of geek and comic book news this week. A lot of stuff has come out. So much so that we're probably not going to hit on everything. But
we got 5 geek shows this week.
5, yeah, right? So thank goodness Daredevil finally came out, though. So yeah, we're going to try to cover as many topics as possible. We're probably going to miss something. That's all right. You guys can hit us up in the comments and we can discuss that with you there or on our Twitter feeds. But let's go ahead and get started with the first thing I think we need to talk about. Star Wars Celebration is going on this week. And the hotly anticipated trailer for Star Wars, the real trailer if you ask me, for Star Wars was released this week. So why don't you go ahead and share your thoughts on the trailer?
Well, firstly, my biggest complaint with both of these trailers so far is that we still know virtually nothing about the story. However, that said, this trailer was much more of a visual feast than the previous trailer. I hear lots of people talking about that opening shot with the Star Destroyer.
Yes.
What people are affectionately referring to as the Chrome Trooper.
Yeah.
Which is people are speculating is going to be played by Gwendolyn Christie from Game of Thrones.
Okay.
She's a main character in that show. We also heard Luke speaking, and
yes, I wanted to ask you about that too, because at first when he's talking, I thought, well, maybe this is Anakin, but the way he describes everything, it definitely seems like it could be Luke.
It's direct lines from Return of the Jedi that Luke says to Leia, and I've heard some people speculate whether it's actually lifted from Jedi or if he re-recorded just the same lines. And I even saw a YouTube video where they compare them side by side, and it sounds pretty much like they just directly lifted it from Jedi.
Fantastic.
But so we got Luke speaking, and we got references to his father, and we even saw the Darth Vader mask.
Which was awesome, I thought,
I think that, and of course, I've heard lots of people being very emotional at seeing Han Solo show up. Harrison Ford again, finally back in the habit. But so I think that this was definitely more to suck on than the previous trailer.
Absolutely.
And probably more people are more excited now than before. Yeah.
We weren't doing the show when the first trailer came out, that teaser from last November, and my biggest problem with that teaser was that it was a lot of really flashy shots. I saw an X-Wing, I saw a Stormtrooper, I saw the Millennium Falcon, but none of it felt like Star Wars to me. It just felt like really flashy Abrams-style movie graphics over just, I don't know, really quick cuts, and I didn't feel Star Wars. Well, this trailer, there was John Williams music playing, which was actually different from what we've had before. This was new music. And then all of those shots, man, the hand on the droid. I mean, the way everything was lit, right? The hand on the droid, the way that BB-88, I'm
IG-88?
No. The ball droid.
That guy.
BB-8.
I didn't know they named him yet.
Oh, yeah. So the way he leans around the corner and he's looking, the glow of the lightsabers, everything in this, and it's not Darth Revan, but everyone keeps saying that. A
lot of people have said that the mask on the new bad guy looks a lot like the Revan mask.
Kylo Ren, that's his name. So, everything looks really, really good about this trailer. I'm super excited. I wasn't before, but now I really think that Abrams might be on the right track. So I'm very curious to see what other sort of stuff we're going to get the rest of the year for this movie.
Yep.
I'm definitely ready to see the movie as well.
I'm very eager. Yeah, I want to see more of what's actually going to happen. We still don't really know at all what the plot's going to be.
Right.
We at least have more of a feel of the universe now,
Yep.
And that's good. Plus, poor John Boyega, every time we've seen him, he's panting and wheezing. And looks
that's one of the things. He was in a completely different scene. The guy's it must be a character flaw in the movie that he's just got asthma or something. I don't know. So that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But okay, so then let's move on to the next kind of big trailer. Probably not as big as Star Wars, but certainly a big trailer.
Certainly
that came
not
out
as
this
big
week.
as Star Wars.
Yeah, but we had
in fact, literally smaller.
Yeah, smaller. Yeah, right. So we had the second trailer for Ant-Man. Now, a lot of people didn't like the first trailer for Ant-Man. I actually did like it. I thought we got a really nice sense of the size and the way that this movie's going to work. I'm not sold on the villain of the movie yet.
Yeah, the villain. I don't remember the actor's name, but he played Peter Russo in House of Cards season 1.
Oh, I've heard that. Yeah,
and it really surprised me that they're going out on a limb and making him the main villain in a big Marvel movie.
Right.
Because I just did not see that as the kind of role for him.
Yeah.
But at the same time, in the trailer, it looks more like the villain is less important in this movie.
I would agree.
It's more, the villain is there. There has to be some kind of villain. Mm-hmm. But it's more about Ant-Man. It's more about Hank Pym and his project in the past. And
right. It's kind of like the villains, I think, in Thor: The Dark World with Malekith, or even, sadly, Jeff Bridges in the first Iron Man movie. The film wasn't about them. They were just kind of there to facilitate the hero coming into their own. Mm-hmm. So we're definitely seem to be getting that from the trailer with this guy. But I will say that we had a little bit of humor in the first Ant-Man trailer, especially when they comment on changing the name on the costume. But I really enjoyed the train battle in this new trailer. It looks so dramatic up close, and then you just see like a train just kind of flip over on the table. Like I hope we get a lot of that sort of close up and then far away what it really looks like. And I thought the ants looked really cool when he's running in the tunnels and the ants are coming with him. That was awesome.
Yeah.
So
and there was even a little bit of wordplay, humor, or not wordplay, but just joking with Michael Douglas and Paul Rudd. It was something he said to the effect of, I never want to break into places and steal stuff again.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And then Michael Douglas is like, I need you to break into some place and steal some stuff.
Yeah, he's like, oh, okay, yeah. So, I really like the trailer. I do think Ant-Man's going to surprise everybody. After Age of Ultron's done, this is the only Marvel movie we've got to Captain America Civil War. And I think we're really going to see a build-up to that movie, or maybe even Infinity Gauntlet. I don't know. But I definitely think this is something that people need to be paying attention to, and I think there's going to be a lot of humor in this movie, so I'm very happy about that.
I do think that is going to be an important focus for them as well, because Ant-Man as a hero isn't necessarily the biggest draw.
Right.
So having Paul Rudd and have it be kind of a comedy movie as well is probably the right approach for them to take.
I would agree, yeah. So let's talk about another trailer. They're not even really a trailer, a TV spot. We've had, three maybe trailers now for Age of Ultron, and now we're into that point where we're getting new 30-second TV spots like every day, it seems like. So they've had ones focused on Black Widow, Captain America, Thor, all the people you'd expect. But this week, yesterday was it, we got a TV spot focused on War Machine. And why don't you tell us why that's significant?
Well, we've discussed it in the past on the show, but there's a lot of speculation going around that War Machine is not going to survive this movie. That basically he will die to show just how serious this is. We do see in the new spot War Machine fighting and Ultron, probably one of his little bots, not the main guy. So we at least know that he's going to make it that far. Right. That he'll make it to the first big battle. And we also saw 2 shots, I think, of him in the suit.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, so there was very little of him actually there, but enough to let you know that he doesn't just die right off the bat. It's not like the first 5 minutes he's going to be gone. So.
And I think it's worth noting, too, versus these other action shots where they're sometimes in the woods or sometimes in, Wakanda, the action shots we have of War Machine both seem to be from some sort of fight at on a helicarrier in the sky. Mm-hmm. So it almost would suggest that there's not a lot of footage to pull from for this trailer. Yeah. And it really seems like after everything we've gotten so far where War Machine's just missing, it almost seems like they're putting this trailer out there so people will stop assuming what probably is happening. And they can say, look, guys, no, he's in the movie. He's doing some stuff. So I'm glad that we got this trailer. I hope we didn't just ruin everything that War Machine does in this movie. But pretty cool spot. I'm glad to see Don Cheadle getting a little more, and it's kind of just funny to see that this late in the game they're not releasing that. I really feel like they're trying to throw us off the trail based on what they've shown us so far.
I don't think they did a very good job.
I don't think so either. So let's go ahead and talk about some movie casting news. This week it was announced that Olivia Munn is going to be playing Betsy Braddock, a.k.a. Psylocke in X-Men Apocalypse. So I'm kind of surprised, honestly, that we're getting Psylocke in X-Men Apocalypse. This was announced by Bryan Singer on his Twitter and Instagram. If you're not familiar with Olivia Munn, most geeks probably know her as a co-host of Attack of the Show on G4, but since leaving G4, she's also done some work in Iron Man 2. She was on the show The Newsroom, and she appeared in the movie Magic Mike.
She was also a Daily Show correspondent for a couple months.
Oh, was she really?
Really did not work out for her.
How was she on Daily Show?
Honestly, not very funny.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That explains why
there was a correspondent piece she did where she kind of focused on her Asian tiger mom, and it was not very funny. And, things like that. After that, I haven't seen her in a long time.
And I remember when Iron Man 2 was coming out, that's like one of the first things she did when she left G4, and everyone's saying, she's an actress now. See her in Iron Man 2. I couldn't tell you what she did in Iron Man 2.
When I saw that in the notes, I was like, she was in Iron Man 2?
I think, if I remember right, she played a reporter who might have had a couple lines of dialogue, and that was it. Uh-huh. So it's interesting that they've had this woman in the movie. I'm a little concerned. This feels a little bit X-Men The Last Stand to me that she's been cast in this movie. And the fact that Psylocke's in the movie is kind of interesting.
It's really a shame that Psylocke, it's coming so late in the game, I would assume, means that her role is not going to be huge in the movie.
That's what I think too, yeah.
So, I worry every time I hear more about X-Men Apocalypse, I kind of tend more toward, oh God, I hope it's not like Batman and Robin when they try to cram so much into this movie that there's just not enough focus for characters I really like Psylocke.
Exactly, yeah. So, yeah. And I guess, you'd have to give Bryan Singer some credit. Every X-Men film that he's put his touch on have actually turned out really well. And this cast is really ballooning, But we had an entire team of X-Men in X-Men Days of Future Past in the future and in the past, and the movie didn't feel crowded. Everyone felt like they got their due, but there were people that didn't even speak. I don't think Colossus ever actually speaks in X-Men Days of Future Past. So it could be a similar situation like that, but it is worth noting, if Psylocke is in this movie, she famously, throughout most of the 90s, into the early 2000s, and even during Uncanny X-Force recently, she's known for being not Angel's, but Archangel's main squeeze. So we have Angel, and let's go ahead and talk about that at the same time. Actor Ben Hardy is officially playing Angel in X-Men Apocalypse. Everyone assumed this when his picture came out. The cast has been looking like the original 5 X-Men sans Iceman at this point. But it really seems like they're going to try to play up that Psylocke-Angel relationship. Now, Bryan Singer actually confirmed to Empire Magazine in a phone interview that Angel is actually being played by Ben Hardy. So now we know, we're not guessing, we know that for sure. And with Psylocke and Angel in this movie, I feel like this is going to be one of the relationships in the movie. So I think it's very key that they're in there.
Yep.
So as far as Angel is concerned, we also, and I'm going to put it up on the screen right now, we got some concept artwork that came out for Archangel, I think earlier in the week. What's interesting about this concept artwork is that it definitely looks like Archangel, but he doesn't have any blue skin, which I thought was kind of interesting. Have you seen the same concept artwork?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm wondering if that's just because it's concept artwork. I would kind of like to see a blue-skinned Archangel because that's how I know him, but maybe with a blue-skinned Mystique and a blue-skinned Nightcrawler, they want to shy away. Beast, they want to shy away from blue-skinned mutants in this movie. Also, it's cool that now that we've seen this Archangel concept artwork, that confirms what a lot of us had assumed anyway. If you're going to put Angel and Apocalypse in a movie together, you might as well have Archangel. Yep. So we're getting a lot of bit of news. We still have no idea what the story of Age of Apocalypse is about. It's not called Age of Apocalypse, just X-Men Apocalypse. We still don't know what the story is about, but we can pretty much infer at this point that we're going to get a jump probably to the 80s, and probably the current team that Xavier has is very much the original 5 X-Men sans Iceman. We don't know that he's in the movie yet, but it's going to seem like it's going to be the original X-Men, and then we're going to have that classic X-Factor story where they run into Apocalypse and Angel gets transformed. Now in the comics, Angel was basically going through depression at the time that they first met Apocalypse. He had recently lost his wings during the mutant massacre when the Morlocks were involved, and a lot of them were killed. Angel's wings were actually, he was staked to a wall and he lost his wings. So it'll be interesting to see if they go that dark with Angel right away. I assume Apocalypse isn't giving him his wings back as part of
it would be kind of strange to introduce Angel and have him lose his wings and then have him be there's a lot to cram a lot into one movie.
Not to mention the whole relationship with Psylocke on top of everything else. And we've got to remember, Mystique is going to be in this movie and Nightcrawler are going to be in this movie. There's going to have to be room made for... this is Jennifer Lawrence's last X-Men movie. If they don't take advantage of the Nightcrawler and Mystique in the same film, again, when we missed our opportunity in X-Men 2, it's, I don't know, just be kind of disappointing. So you have to assume that's going to be a focus of the movie as well.
A natural question, we talked about this earlier today even, do you think X-Men Apocalypse or just the character of Apocalypse is only going to be one movie?
I don't suppose he has to be.
Yeah, it could turn out that the Archangel conversion, all of that happens at the end of the movie, and now we have Apocalypse to look forward to in another movie.
That would be very interesting. I don't know what sort of contract Oscar Isaac was signed to. He's playing Apocalypse. Surely in this day and age, they didn't just sign him to one movie. They probably signed him to at least 3. Or if Fox is smart, they're going to do the Marvel picture deal and try to get 9 out of you.
And you don't kill Apocalypse. So.
Yeah, you don't kill Apocalypse. I mean, he goes away for a little bit while he recharges. So it'll be very interesting to see. I know I myself thought when X-Men Days of Future Past ended, when we already had X-Men Apocalypse announced at that point, that when they fixed the future and came back or whatever they were going to do, that it would suddenly be the Age of Apocalypse and they'd be like, oh crap, butterfly effect, what have we done? So it'd be interesting to see if this movie ends with the Age of Apocalypse starting. That would also be interesting considering that characters like Jean Grey, Nightcrawler, Magneto are all here, characters that are very prevalent in X-Men, or in Age of Apocalypse, the comic book storyline. So yeah, we'll see where it goes. It could be very interesting to see. Maybe Angel does go through his wing loss, and maybe it is the end of the movie where he makes the deal with Apocalypse and decides to be his horseman of death.
And I guess, how is the whole Mystique as Stryker thing going to play into this movie?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when you consider that, I think everybody assumed that Hugh Jackman was coming back for X-Men Apocalypse. I really think he is. Now I'm starting to question if it's been confirmed. But we know for sure he said his last film is X-Men, or Wolverine 3. So whatever's going on there with Mystique and Wolverine and all that, that's got to be wrapped up too in this movie.
Well, and we know for sure that Apocalypse is going to be Jennifer Lawrence's last X-Men movie, right?
We do, yeah. She's basically ready to get out of this contract.
So she will not be in X-Men 3, or in Wolverine 3. pursuing any of that Strikers.
No, I wouldn't think so. I would expect actually Wolverine 3 at this point to be Old Man Logan. Everybody wants it. Hugh Jackman is a fan of the story. If we don't get Old Man Logan as the swan song for Wolverine, I don't know. I'll be very, very surprised. I feel like it's definitely a missed opportunity if they don't do that. So another thing we want to mention about X-Men Apocalypse is just today, Bryan Singer announced on his Twitter that Lucas Till is coming back, and that was Havok. Now, if you guys don't remember Havok, he was one of the main characters in X-Men First Class. In the comics, he's the younger brother of Cyclops. Obviously, in the movie universe, he's going to have to be the older brother of Cyclops, but he projects plasma blasts from his hands. He needed that disc on his chest in the first movie to help direct and channel his energy. We saw in X-Men Days of Future Past during the Vietnam War that he had mastered his ability. He didn't need the suit anymore. He kind of had a cameo, an extended cameo, if anything. So this late in the game, him being announced, probably looking at another extended cameo. But it's still cool to see that he's back. I like that they don't forget that X-Men First Class happened. I still wish we could get Banshee again, but, I guess he's out of the picture now. So definitely worth noting that that's like brand new news that we just got today. So what are your thoughts on Havok coming back?
I think that if anything, it's kind of reminding us that the guy still exists. We may see some interaction with Cyclops, but keeping Havok in the game allows that future plot line with Corsair and the Starjammers to come up at some point. So.
And we were talking about this off camera. With the success of Guardians of the Galaxy and Star Wars coming out and spin-off films, last time we had Phoenix going on in the movies.
And Bryan Singer really hasn't gotten to do Dark Phoenix.
Bryan Singer, he definitely built up the Dark Phoenix in X-Men 2, and then he went and did Superman. At the time, space movies weren't really in vogue. There were no. I think the Star Wars movies were the only space movies that even did well at all. The Star Trek films were tanking, and we weren't really getting any other science fiction movies. So it would make a lot of sense with the success of Guardians of the Galaxy if the next X-Men film after Apocalypse was the Dark Phoenix saga. If we finally went into space, and now we've got Cyclops and Scott together. And man, all we need is that cameo from somebody playing Corsair. Who knows who they would get for that role? There's so many great actors you could choose, but it would be really cool if the Starjammers somehow show up at the end of this movie or something to that effect.
The continuing presence of Havok I just see as leaving that door open.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, all right, well, that's going to kind of close out our movie news. Again, there was more stuff out there. There's some photos of Jared Leto. We don't really have time to talk about all of that, but let's go ahead and move on to Uncanny Avengers number 3. Now, this book actually came out last week, I think it was, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago. We've been off for 2 weeks. But it's a book that we're definitely following, especially leading into Age of Ultron, just trying to get some comic book Avengers stuff going on with us. The creative team on this book was Rick Remender and Daniel Acuna again. That's no change from the previous issues. And I've got to say, I'm really enjoying Daniel Acuna's art on this book. He's got a very 1950s, 1960s style matte painting design or look to his artwork. I think with the city that we're seeing on it's not Wonder Mountain, but the other Earth or the Counter Earth. He's doing a very, very good job of kind of giving us that landscape and even the creativity he's putting into all of the mutates that are on that planet. Yep. So what happened in this book? We've got the Maximoffs are matching off against
Luminous.
Luminous, yes. So it was very interesting to see that Scarlet Witch, who acknowledges she doesn't have a full control over the chaos magic she wields, Luminous does seem to have full control.
And she has super speed.
And she seems to be faster than Quicksilver.
Yep.
So very, very interesting. The Vision is still, we got more of that in this story.
Vision, yep, he's making babies with Eve.
Yep.
And
completely unaware that this is not the situation he's supposed to be in.
And it seems like he's been in this situation for a while now, too.
The first time we see him in Counter-Earth, he's definitely been around for a while. So, and if you remember in the first issue, I think it was, when they first traveled to Counter-Earth, everybody got separated.
Yeah.
So it's possible, I guess, that Vision could have shown up way before everyone else.
And as an android, he could have been there for years.
Exactly. We wouldn't have any idea. Yeah. So Sabretooth, we got to see more of him in this issue. He's sufficiently brainwashed, it seems.
Yeah.
I kind of wondered if he was going to break out of his, his captor's hold and team up with Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, but that just didn't happen. Yeah. So we didn't get any sort of update on Brother Voodoo this week.
No, I didn't see him.
We got just the tiniest update on Rogue, and they're still trying to separate the Ionic Force, Wonder Man, from her. So that story is still developing. It definitely seems like whoever Rogue is with is in opposition of the High Evolutionary. So we're probably going to have some sort of dissension among the ranks, I guess, as this story closes out.
I don't think we saw any Sam Wilson either. Last time we saw him...
He's a tree, right?
Yeah, last time we saw him was when the High Evolutionary blew up that whole city, and apparently he went down with it.
Yep.
So we still don't know what's going on there.
More to come from Captain Falcon. How are you enjoying the books for? I'm really enjoying it. I think the art's great. I think the story is very unique.
It's definitely a story, like, as someone who's never read any Avengers really before, it's something that I feel like I could pick up and continue to read and still kind of get what's going on. So yeah, it's definitely a good take. And I'm interested in seeing where it goes.
Oh, and it's also worth noting, too, that I think after the third issue, there's pretty much no doubt at this point that the High Evolutionary is intended to be the new father figure for Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
So they've kind of steamrolled all over that Magneto father stuff. They're just blowing past that now. I think that's going to be the new canon moving forward.
Why do you think he gave Luminous so much more power than his other two children?
Well, we've seen in the previous issues that he has a focus on building up civilizations to see how powerful they are, and then just wiping them out if they're not strong enough.
So you think Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver were earlier experiments?
Exactly, and Luminous is kind of his redo, and he's going to use Luminous to take out the two other children that he doesn't think are basically worthy at this point.
Yeah.
So, great book. I'm still really excited to see the next issue. We'll definitely be picking that up. So, moving on to some more comic book stuff here. A book was announced this week, Star Trek Green Lantern crossover. So it's going to be a partnership between Warner Brothers and IDW, or more specifically DC and IDW. The book is going to be written by Mike Johnson, who has been handling, I'm pretty sure, the bulk or the lion's share of all of the new Trek comics since Star Trek 2009 came out. So he definitely knows the new Trek cast, so it makes sense for him to be writing the new Trek, Star Trek cast. So, and when I say new Trek, for those of you who aren't Trekkies, I'm referring to Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, that version of the Star Trek crew, not William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, and that version from the 60s. And then the artwork is actually being done by, it's either Angel or Angel Hernandez. I'm sorry, my writing's terrible. Hernandez. Now, he hasn't done a lot, but he did do DC's Arrow book that's running right now. He doesn't seem to do every issue. He seems to switch off and on. So, looking at his artwork from the Arrow books, he actually seems to render the actors' likenesses pretty well. So
it's like a CW version?
Yeah, exactly. CW Arrow comic book. So, I think he's going to do just fine on this book. So, the actual cover, and I'm going to have that up on the screen right now, shows the Green Lantern, and we even see the Yellow Lantern ring in the background, but the person wearing the Yellow Lantern ring is not Sinestro, it's General Chang.
Indeed.
So what's fascinating about that is that General Chang is from the original Star Trek VI movie. He was probably one of the more power-hungry Klingons that we've ever encountered, quotes Shakespeare, played by actor Christopher Plummer. He's a very interesting character, very interesting megalomaniac almost, to have a lantern ring in his control. So I think we're going to get a very interesting showdown as Green Lantern and Captain Kirk and his crew team up against Chang and the Yellow Lantern Corps.
It's interesting. I remember when I was doing looking at Watch Mojo's top 10 Trek villains. People like Chang made the list.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, I think there's a different perception for people who watch the Star Trek movies versus people who watch the Star Trek TV show on who the important villains are.
Yeah.
Because it's like Chang, while he was a very effective villain in Star Trek VI, he was a one-off villain.
He really was,
Like, I don't have any particularly strong attachment to him.
He's never referenced in any of the stuff that came after him.
No, you never hear him again.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's nice, I guess, that they have a strong villain who's also a bit of a clean slate in that way.
Yeah, exactly.
That they can kind of do whatever they want with him, so, yeah.
Also, this is just kind of a quick fun note. If you guys haven't been following the casting rumors, and again, this is all rumor right now, the supposed frontrunner for Green Lantern is Chris Pine. So it'd be funny if a couple years down the road, you go back and check out the story and Chris Pine's teamed up with Chris Pine.
It'll be like that Star Trek X-Men crossover where...
they comment that Xavier and Professor X looked the same before Patrick Stewart was ever cast as Xavier. So, all right, so let's go ahead and move on to This Week in Geek TV. We had a huge release come out last Friday. Daredevil has finally hit Netflix.
Whole series dropped.
Yeah, now some of you may have already completed the show in one day, maybe 2 days. Unfortunately, we've got more things to do in the week, but we were able to get through the first 5 episodes of Daredevil. And I just want to say really quickly off the bat, I'm a huge fan of where this show is going. The martial arts choreographed sequences are fantastic.
The hallway fight.
The hallway fight in the second episode is amazing. It's towards the end of the show. If you guys haven't seen the second episode yet, when you get there, you'll know it when you see it coming. But it's just one continuous camera shot. Well, Matt Murdock, man, he's looking like he's really taking a beating and getting extremely tired, but he still keeps dropping the hard moves. I mean, he's taking guys down. And one thing about this Daredevil, I'll say, one of his superpowers has to be taking punishment.
Yeah.
I mean, he really just gets beat on and beat on and beat on.
And he seems to have just incredible hearing.
Yes, he does, right?
Stands up on top of a building and can hear anything going on in the town. What I was wondering is, at the very beginning, you see... he loses his eyesight when some sort of chemical gets splashed on him. Is that supposed to be...
Oh, in the comics, totally. That's how they explain.
Okay, so he's got superpowers from that chemical? Okay.
Yep, so... Yeah, so I'm really enjoying the series so far. All of the characters, like Foggy, I didn't know anything about the actor before going into the show. I'm a big fan of Foggy Nelson right now.
I don't know, in the comics, is that a regular companion?
Foggy Nelson is his paralegal. He's always there. Karen Page has actually been part of the Daredevil mythos for quite a while. What I know about Karen Page could potentially be spoilerish. Mm-hmm. Maybe not if you've seen the 5th episode of Daredevil. It's kind of weird what just happened between Foggy and Karen.
Are they in a relationship? I don't know.
Spoiler warning for the comics. This may not happen on Daredevil Netflix. I don't know. But in the comics, Matt Murdock and Foggy both have an interest in Karen Page. And a rift forms between them when Foggy finds out that Karen's actually into Matt. And based on what we saw in episode 5,
makes sense, yeah.
Foggy thinks he has a chance with her, frankly. And out of the blue, she's like, I want you to pretend like you're blind and feel my face. And he's like, what? Yeah. So, also, Karen famously dies in the comics, and it's a traumatic experience for Matt. So
that could be coming.
It could be coming, too. I don't know that's in the comics. So, very interesting to see how that develops. I really like how they've handled the Russian mobsters.
They're so dumb, though.
They are so dumb. Yeah.
When they kidnapped Claire, and then Daredevil shows up, and I'm like, I thought the reason they kidnapped her was to get him to show up.
Yeah.
But they're all so surprised that he's there. I was like,
right?
Really, guys?
So, well, I do think that I've enjoyed the little bit of backstory that we've got from them. They really do seem like a rough set of guys, but also I'm a fan of this sort of like court of, or whatever, gathering of evil leaders.
Were you going to say court of owls?
Yeah, I guess it's sort of a court of owls, but like this gathering of all like these evil powerhouses in New York. You know, they've met in a skyscraper, they've met in a couple other places, but I like the sort of idea that a representative from each powerful faction in the city are getting together. And now Fisk seems to be turning the Russians against everyone else. Yeah. So we'll see how that progresses on the show. I have a feeling...
what do you think of the costume?
The Daredevil costume. Okay, let me say that. Initially, I did not like the black costume. Mm-hmm. Of course, I've read the comics. I'm familiar with Frank Miller's work, and even Romita's work. I think he drew that costume during that same story run. Did not like that they were going with that. Now that we're 5 episodes in, I actually really like the look. Mm-hmm. And honestly, that image that's now on the banner for Netflix for Daredevil, the red suit, I don't want to see that. The red suit kind of looks silly.
Well, it's in the intro, too, so presumably we're going to end with that.
Well, yeah, I'm sure the last episode of the show, last fight of the show is probably going to be when he finally puts the suit on. Mm-hmm. But I'm really digging the black suit at this point, so I'd like to just stay with that.
And they're going to throw back to that line that his dad said, too. Or was it his dad, or he said it? Somebody said it, where basically when you have red, you can hide the blood or something like that.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
His dad had that red coat.
So, that's how I feel about that. And we'll touch quickly on Fisk. This portrayal of Fisk is not what I was expecting at all.
I don't particularly like it. I know that you're more of a fan than I am.
Yeah.
He's very soft-spoken and very vulnerable, whereas I tend to think of Fisk as more of a powerful character.
Right. No, I agree that I would definitely describe him as vulnerable too. This is a guy who's got a lot of insecurities, and I've not consistently read Daredevil in the comics, but I've read enough. An amazing storyline that took place in Spider-Man, where Spider-Man went into prison to take out Kingpin after Kingpin had Aunt May assassinated. I mean, this is a guy that's like ruthless and powerful. He got in a one-on-one fight with Spider-Man. I mean, this is the Kingpin I know, not the Kingpin who's unsure and who's afraid to ask the girl out. Yeah. But at the same time, he had a dinner ruined in episode 3, was it? Or episode 4? 3 or 4. And man, when Vanessa didn't invite him in for the night, you knew that stuff was going down. He got. I didn't know how upset he was going to get, but he got pretty upset. So I'm intentionally being vague. This is definitely a show that you guys want to check out. I'm definitely personally giving it my full endorsement. I cannot wait to get to the end of the series. We're probably going to try to have that done by next show, hopefully, have the series done. So, and what's your thoughts on the show overall?
Well, yeah, I'm enjoying it so far. I have a friend who watched it that said that basically he didn't like where it went. He kind of felt like it started well, but didn't really go anywhere, so I'm a little bit worried about that.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that from the first 5 episodes, I'd probably give it 8 or so.
Oh, yeah. Maybe, I dare say maybe a 9 out of 10 or something, a 9.5 out of 10. Mm-hmm. So, so let's go ahead and move on then. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. This week.
I have to say, before you get into it,
yes,
there were 5 geek shows this week.
Yes.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is my favorite one by far this week.
That even includes Daredevil.
Includes Daredevil.
All right.
I thought Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was very, very strong this week.
Well, and I honestly really enjoyed Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. too. Mm-hmm. When we first got the counter S.H.I.E.L.D. program, I was not feeling it at all. It really seemed like it was shoehorned in as a sort of a writing to stretch the series out, frankly. This is probably the first episode where I'm really behind the other S.H.I.E.L.D., and mostly I think it's because Coulson's crew are now kind of sort of working with them.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed that part of the story. The big thing about there's two big things about this episode. The first one is that we finally got the Melinda May backstory where we saw what the Calvary was all about, and I gotta say that was not what I was expecting when they were talking about it in season 1. I like how it ties into the Inhumans, and basically Melinda May is forced to do something in Bahrain that really just ruins her emotionally. And for the sake of, I really think it needs to be watched in the episode because there's a twist that I don't think anyone can actually see coming until they want you to know it's coming. So it was a really amazing moment, but everything you've heard about where how Melinda May was able to take on all these forces when all these S.H.I.E.L.D. agents couldn't handle anything.
It was a nice twist because I don't remember if it was this season that we actually found this out, but they did hint that basically part of the reason that she's referred to that way is that she had to take out a gifted person.
Exactly, yes.
But it's not what you think.
Exactly, you're right.
As the episode continues, they set it up so that you think it's this woman, Belyakov, with super strength, and that's who she's going in to take care of, but it's not what you think.
and another thing, too, that to that point is, while she's going through this building, bodies are dropping left and right. And in retrospect, once everything's done, you're like, well, that's why they got the idea that she took out all these men by herself. So,
it was nice how they tied it into the Inhumans as well.
Yeah, exactly. And as we touch on the Inhumans, Skye now knows that, is it Jiaying?
Jiaying, yeah.
Jiaying, yeah, that Jiaying is her mother. So I thought that was a very, very powerful, impactful moment in this episode.
That scene at the end where they were all having dinner together.
Oh my goodness,
good.
It was so touching, right?
Yep.
Cal, who's just been maniacal this entire time.
I think Kyle MacLachlan has been nailing it in that role, by the way.
Yeah.
Probably one of my favorite characters on the show. Love him in that role.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just for me, the raw emotion at the end of this episode when they're finally eating dinner together and Kyle seems normal again. I mean, it's so sad to know that this is the man that has become the man that we've seen this entire time.
Yep.
He finally got what he wanted. His wife is healthy. His daughter is present. He's eating that dinner that he always wanted. He had the daisies out for her. I mean, it really just almost brings a tear to your eye that we know that he's not mentally well, and frankly, they're ready to drop him after this episode. And I'd like to think that they're not going to, but the man's so unstable that he has to go.
You know that, this happy situation isn't going to go on. I do wonder, I've heard some speculation that Jiaying is not being honest about something.
Nobody on the show is.
But the way that they've set it up, it could also go the direction that Skye's family holds together, but the other Inhumans turn against them.
Well, that could be interesting.
Because we saw, she made some reference to how she couldn't
admit that that's her daughter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now we know that Lincoln knows because he walked in.
Well, the weird thing with Lincoln, too, is he walked into the room, he didn't even seem surprised.
No.
He was just like, oh, yeah, there they are having dinner as a family. Does he know this whole time?
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, but...
And presumably Gordon knows, too, since...
I don't know if he does.
Yeah.
So it's weird. Lincoln knows, but it didn't seem surprised, and we don't know if Gordon knows.
And now
for sure.
Raina's going to know for sure too.
Well, and that's another point to this episode. We've now learned that Raina is precognizant.
The true irony, I've heard it stated by other people, is that Raina was basically hot for a clairvoyant all season 1, and now she is one.
I didn't even make that connection. That's amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, that's actually sweet irony.
It is.
Yeah, poetic irony, whatever you want to call it. That's actually a really cool point. So that's nice that you point that out. Finally, the other sort of thread running in this episode is that Coulson is not up to what we think he's up to.
What's the Theta Protocol?
I have no idea. That's nothing from the comics. We've learned that Coulson has been developing upgrades for Deathlock, which obviously we saw last week. We just didn't realize that Coulson had a hand in that. And he's apparently building some sort of bunker where a bunch of beds are. They're trying to play it up like Coulson's a bad guy. Obviously, he's not. The real question is, what is he actually doing? Was he really trying to get a bunch of powered people and store them somewhere? Or is he trying to basically rebuild S.H.I.E.L.D. in a new location? Who knows? But it's interesting that the other S.H.I.E.L.D. agents are trying so hard to convince Phil's agents that he's malevolent, and I don't think that he is.
And how is all of this going to tie into Age of Ultron?
True, yeah, we got Age of Ultron coming up in 2 weeks now. So yeah, this is going to be very interesting to see how this all comes to a head.
And do you know how many more episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. we have?
I believe after, because I think it runs through the end of May, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
So yeah, we're definitely going to get some post-Ultron stuff.
we totally will. So let's go ahead and move on to Arrow and Flash then. And I didn't see either of these, so why don't you go ahead and give us a rundown of what happened.
Okay, so starting with Flash, since it airs first. Firstly, this week on Flash, we had another crossover. We have Ray, Palmer, and Felicity showing up in Central City. And we also had Emily Kinney from The Walking Dead show up as a bug-eyed bandit who controls bees. And it seemed kind of random that Ray and Felicity showed up. I guess they were showing up to have Cisco and Star Labs help them with his suit that he's been having trouble with. But it's not entirely clear where Flash fits into the Arrow canon because, and I'll get to this in a minute, but on Arrow, we had Ray in the hospital last week, and he took these nanites that made him feel better, and they made some reference at the beginning of this episode about how he was still recovering from the nanites. It's just not entirely clear how it all fits together. I think Flash is technically an episode ahead of Arrow as well currently. So really the timeline's all messed up. But anyway, on Flash we had Ray and Felicity show up. And we also have continuing drama with Eddie and Joe knowing about the Flash but not being able to tell Iris. So at the start of the episode, we had kind of a buddy cop thing with Eddie, Joe, and the Flash going around solving crimes together. Then Ray shows up. They work on trying to fix his suit, but then we start getting attacks from Bee-Lady. So Barry's trying to stop Bee-Lady, and he ends up getting stung to death by her. And then we find out that he has a defibrillator in his suit that they use to revive him, but now it's broken because apparently they can't use it more than twice or something. So that plot continues, and they decide that they need Ray to go track down the Bee-Lady because they don't have the defibrillator in the suit. We have a double date with Barry as the fifth wheel with Ray, Felicity, Iris, and Eddie, which Iris essentially just ruins the evening because she's very upset with Eddie for not telling her some secret, which is the fact that he knows about the Flash, and she just won't let it go. So Ray bought out this really fancy restaurant, and they were going to have a 17-course meal, and they're all there together, but it completely falls apart because Iris just can't get over the fact that Eddie won't tell her something. So they go and they stop Bug-Eyed Bandit. Bug-Eyed Bandit was kind of a wasted villain, if you ask me. They end up finding out that the bees are actually robot bees, not real bees. So she's not controlling them with power. She's controlling them with technology. And for some reason, Barry has a really hard time with these bees. But ultimately, long story short, they stop them. And Cisco gets stung by a bee, and they have to use Barry's, I guess, he does this weird pulsating thing on his chest, kind of like a defibrillator, to bring him back. And we also learned that Cisco's been seeing flashbacks of when Harrison Wells killed him in the other timeline. Weird. Yeah, and there's no explanation for that, really. I mean, it seems like he kind of just realized it. I've heard some people speculate that when Harrison Wells phased through his chest, that it had something to do with activating his vibe powers, because apparently in the comics, due to the ability that Vibe can detect vibrations, he has the ability to pick up on other universes in some way. And I've also heard it speculated that Barry doing the defibrillator thing is another kind of kickstart to the Vibe power. So we may see more development of Vibe as the series continues.
That show is moving at a breakneck speed.
It really is moving like crazy. So yeah, we had that crossover this week. The episode was called All-Star Team Up. We've seen in the previews that that Oliver is going to be there, and that Firestorm is going to be there. So I was expecting that to be this week. Apparently not. Honestly, I felt like this week on Flash was kind of a wasted episode. The only real development that happened was at the end, Barry decided to tell Caitlin and Cisco about his suspicions about Wells. And it kind of seemed like Caitlin wasn't believing it, but Cisco latched onto it right away because of these dreams he's been having. So that's kind of all that happened in Flash. Arrow. So it's been a couple weeks, and I can't remember if we talked last about this, but basically where Arrow left off was that Ra's al Ghul told Lance that Oliver Queen was the Arrow, and Lance decided to break it to the whole city that Oliver Queen is the Arrow. So he goes and tracks him down, and then at the very end of the episode, when he's got Oliver in a police wagon, Roy shows up, Roy shows up in the Arrow outfit and says, "I'm Spartacus, I mean Arrow," and turns himself in as the Arrow. So at the beginning of this week, Roy is in jail, and Oliver is crazy about getting him out. We also have Ray continuing his work with the suit, and then we had the introduction of Deathbolt at last.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So the first metahuman villain, and since Oliver is being tracked down, and basically he's Starling City's most wanted fugitive, they decide that Ray needs to go stop Deathbolt while Oliver keeps it on the DL.
So this is the episode that Stephen Amell was referencing at Planet Comic-Con.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So you have Oliver using kind of a technological mind control type thing to control Ray while he's in the suit, because apparently Ray doesn't have the street smarts that Oliver does to combat the villain. But Deathbolt breaks the technology almost immediately, and Ray ends up having to come to his own rescue and stops Deathbolt. So we have that, but we also have Roy in prison. He gets attacked by people that Oliver put away.
Oh, okay.
But they don't know that he's not really the Arrow, so they're looking to kill him.
Nobody's noticed that Arrow suddenly shaved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the fight, Roy stops them all the first time at least, but then later in the episode we see Roy get stabbed and seemingly bleed out. Now it's important to note, a lot of people were speculating over the past few weeks, or the month I suppose, that the show was off. No, it was 2 weeks this time. But the 2 weeks that the show was off, a lot of people were speculating that what would happen was Roy would die in jail, get attacked and killed by inmates, and this is what would force Oliver to accept the Ra's al Ghul mantle, because now he needs to take Roy to the Lazarus pit, resurrect him, so on and so forth. The writers knew that, I'm sure, because they pulled a fast one where they made you think Roy was dead, but after we see him stabbed and killed, then he shows up at Arrow Cave and explains to Oliver that this was all part of their plan, that Diggle knew an Argus guy who can stab someone and make them bleed a lot but not die. Okay. And so now everybody thinks the Arrow is dead, but Roy is still alive, and now Roy has to run off and leave because everybody thinks he was the Arrow. So Roy is now off the show, and who knows what's going to happen there. I've heard some people speculate he might be on the Teen Titans show. I don't know if that's even in the same universe. I guess we'll find out more as that continues on. But the big, I guess, surprise was that if you weren't paying attention and realizing, oh, Roy isn't dead now, at the end of the episode, Ross shows up and kills Thea.
Well,
so Oliver still has the same incentive to take Thea to the Lazarus pit, but now it's not what everybody was thinking was going to happen.
Okay.
So yeah. Presumably that's what's going to happen. Ross showed up, killed Thea. Oliver's going to decide, I have to take up the Ra's al Ghul mantle because I have to save my sister. Yeah. And that's where it's going to go. And presumably when Speedy, or Thea, comes back from the Lazarus pit, she's not going to be the same, and she's going to be more in line with what we need from a Speedy character. Yeah. So, yeah, that's Arrow this week.
Okay.
Just moving on to Gotham.
Yeah, well, let's go ahead and jump right into Gotham. So this is Gotham's first episode in about a month. Mm-hmm. We both watched this one. We got several updates to different story threads. I think most notably was we got a new villain introduced.
Yes, we got Milo Ventimiglia as the Ogre.
Yes, which I gotta say, man, I think he did a very good job playing the Ogre.
He did. The only complaint I have about that is that they spent so much time on this episode.
They really did.
Setting up his backstory.
Especially when I'm not sure when we're going to see him again.
Well, and I'm wondering, because I know after the previous episode, or right before the previous episode, they basically had to film 5 more episodes. Yeah. They may have decided we need a villain to fill out the series. Yeah. So they're really trying to set the Ogre up as kind of the villain of the last 5 episodes, whereas I think Loeb, based on the end of the episode, will be the villain of season 2.
Yeah, I can see that.
And Gordon's going to go track him down. We got very little with Ed this week. There was some bit with him helping them track down the speakeasies, I think.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. But he was excited, actually, to get involved. Yeah, I thought that was a nice touch.
The promo showed that there might be more coming with that, with Ed. Okay. Also, you didn't see the promo, did you?
No.
So in the promo, we actually see Barbara walking into the ogre's torture chamber.
Oh.
So...
Well, that's interesting.
At the end of this episode, they really wanted you to think Lee was the one who was going to be
they
taken.
did. In fact, I don't even think we saw her again, right? After Gordon tried to call her, he was worried about her? They never really established where she was.
But the promo kind of gave that one away.
Okay.
So, I'm guessing it's going to be Barbara who's the main concern now.
Can it be Fish?
Yeah. Speaking of Fish, this is the first week that I liked what they did with Fish.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Because finally she's off the island. And I didn't expect the whole her pulling a fast one on all those other guys.
Oh,
where she sent them down to the docks and then like, wait a minute.
Right.
And then she went to the helicopter. So yeah.
Makes you wonder what those keys were for, though.
The helicopter, right?
Were those helicopter keys? Okay, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. So she's off the island now and she's been shot. I don't think she's going to die from that. I think she'll probably... I'm sure she's going to die.
Yeah.
But especially since she's not going to be back in season 2. But what I expect is she'll get back to Gotham and basically she'll need help from people and nobody's going to want to help her. And she'll probably end up having to go to Penguin, of all people, and he's going to be like, no. And then he'll kill her.
That'll be a nice bit of justice for him.
Also, this week we saw more with Reggie Payne.
Yes, we did. Actually, I wasn't expecting to see him again. But...
Yeah, so he was at some shooting gallery.
Yeah.
Where Bruce got information out of him. Apparently, it's not Amanda Waller. I can't remember what her name was.
Yeah, I can't remember either.
We got the name of the 2 of the Wayne board members. One of them was a guy, one of them was a woman, and I can't remember what their names were.
I want to say the guy was something along the lines of Waldorf or something.
Yeah, something like that. He was apparently a junkie, and Cat threw his drugs out a window, and he was trying to get them when Bruce got the idea to try to push him out the window.
He did,
but decided not to, and Cat just pushes him out.
Yeah, she just knocked him right out.
Yeah. So that's the end of Reggie Payne. And anything else that happened this week?
Well, let's see. We saw Alfred wasn't recovering too well. We established Gordon.
Penguin had stuff with...
he did, yeah. So that was kind of nice.
He's setting up a lair to kill Maroni in.
Exactly.
And I don't know the comics well enough. Is Maroni someone who can die, basically?
I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah.
The only thing I really know Ramoni from is The Long Halloween. That's where I remember seeing him.
He was in one of the...
He was in the Batman films too, yeah. So I just know he's a mob presence. I suppose on this show they could do anything. I mean,
they could do whatever.
The mob's pretty throwaway. It seems like Penguin's the one who ultimately needs to be running the show, so I suppose they could do anything. Mm-hmm. Maybe just Falcone will stick around. He seems to have a better rivalry with Penguin anyway, and I kind of like seeing that character better.
Yep.
But,
not a huge fan of David Zayas as Maroni. I think he's been fine, but nothing that I can get really excited about. So
right.
And I wonder if this new place that Penguin is getting, the seedier place, might be his lounge. Every time he gets a new place, it's like, is this going to be the lounge?
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, so I guess that is pretty much all the updates for this show. I'm trying to remember, what was Marina Baccarin's character up to other than just doing autopsies? Did she have any development this week?
No, I don't think so.
Okay,
she was going to go to some dinner with Gordon, but then she helped him solve the case. Not solve, but yeah.
All right, well then I guess we'll go ahead and leave it there. Oh, well I guess it is worth noting that the whole reason that Gordon's involved with the ogre at all is that he was set up. Yeah. So we had a moment in the show where it was kind of nice actually when we first saw it, where a young, not even a detective, like a beat cop or somebody comes up and says, "Look, I believe in what you're doing. I want to turn things around. Here's a case that we never solved. I think you've got a shot at it." And for a moment, it seemed like classic Gordon is starting to come into his own.
Yep.
Turned out to be a complete lie, but I did like that moment up until that point where it was just like Gordon really felt like he was actually starting to do something.
Yep.
So, all right, well, let's go ahead and move on to gaming news. As you can see, JT is not with us this week, but we're going to try to cover what we can here. The first thing we should mention is that Mortal Kombat X came out this week. Now, Greg and I are big fans of Injustice Gods Among Us. It runs on the Mortal Kombat engine. I was a huge fan of the Mortal Kombat 9 that came out, back not 10 years ago, but like 4 or 5 years ago now. It was a really great game that changed the structure for Mortal Kombat. In my opinion, legitimized it as an actual competition-worthy fighting game. Especially, we're both really ingrained in Capcom fighters, so I felt like Mortal Kombat 9 really actually did a lot to improve the franchise, and I was glad to see that carried over into Injustice Gods Among Us. So now...
They've definitely taken a lot of the elements from Capcom fighters, too, like the different super meters and
exactly, right.
EX moves and stuff like that.
Yep, and they even took it back to 2D, which Mortal Kombat for a while had been on 3D.
Really? I didn't know.
Yeah, so they had kart racing and a bunch of other crazy stuff during the PS2 era. So we didn't get our chance chance to get a hands on Mortal Kombat,
it's kind of hard to find.
It's hard to find where we're at. We aren't buying the game outright. I've got reviews to do, guys, on toys. But we're going to try to get our hands on that so we can give you some impressions later on, because we are big fighting fans here. So, but that did release this week. So if you guys weren't aware of that, definitely check it out. Next up, we had an announcement for LEGO Dimensions. So go ahead and tell us about LEGO Dimensions.
So LEGO Dimensions is apparently the appellation for these games is Toys to Life games.
Is that what they say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So also they're known as like Portal games or something like that, where you have a little portal and you can put people on them.
I know a different Portal game.
Yeah, I know, right? But so yeah, LEGO Dimensions was announced, and it's clearly going to be riffing off of the movie, because on the cover.
Oh yes, I saw that Wild Style was one of the characters.
Yeah, Wild Style and Batman, and I think oh gosh, I can't remember his name.
Emmett.
Emmett. Okay.
Yeah.
So they're definitely going to be taking off that universe, which seems to be pretty successful.
Yeah.
And also since it's Lego, they've got the DC franchise that they can just run away with. So it'd be great to kind of have it set up as more of a direct counter to Disney Infinity. Also, LEGO Dimensions, unlike Disney Infinity, is going to allow you to play all of your characters in one universe together.
That's pretty great.
So yeah, I mean, you have that with the toy box in Disney Infinity, but from what I understand, the playset style gameplay in LEGO Dimensions is not going to be locked to characters in those playsets.
Particular sets. So you can have a Ninja Turtle figure in your Batman universe if you want to. Yep.
That's how I understand it, at least.
So,
and the figures themselves are little Lego figures, so they have...
And are they to scale with the rest of the Legos that already exist?
As far as I can tell, I haven't seen them hands-on yet, but they look like it in the pictures I've seen.
Okay, well, we'll definitely be following up with that. I mean, Greg covers a lot of Disney Infinity stuff. Definitely check out his sale updates and the walkthroughs he's been doing. I'll put the link both in the description of this video, but then I'll also have something else somewhere for you guys.
We also have a weekly giveaway.
Yeah, exactly. So you definitely want to check that out. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the next game that we have announced here, Guitar Hero Live. Now, if you guys remember 3-4 weeks ago, we talked about Rock Band having a sequel game coming. We're really excited because while Guitar Hero brought guitars to the living room, Rock Band, I think, definitely perfected the formula. Granted, it was the original guys who started Guitar Hero anyway, but once we got Rock Band, we got a really great music game going. So, not to be outdone, Guitar Hero Live has been announced. And what do we know about that?
Well, the main thing is that the guitar is different now.
Yes.
So, instead of one row of 5 buttons, you have 2 rows of 3 buttons, which I guess they think it ups the skill ceiling for one thing. But also it means none of your old guitars are going to work. Which
is probably the key decision in changing the controller to begin with.
Yeah. So I know it's going to be $100 for the game plus guitar. And it's a shame because you're going to have to buy the game plus guitar. I've also heard that they're going to have channel functionality like on the PS4 you were talking earlier.
Oh, like with the Twitch streaming they do?
Yeah. Well, you're going to be able to import your own songs or at least play them in some way, and it's going to generate a game for you.
Okay.
So I know there's not.
Wait! You're importing music now.
Well, it's. I think you can play it off of your system or something.
Okay.
But there's not a whole lot of details out there yet about how that's going to work.
Sure.
But my understanding is you are going to be able to basically do like a Pandora style, play music, and it will generate tracks.
Well, that's awesome, because definitely during the heyday of Guitar Hero and Rock Band, one of the things I really enjoyed doing was going on YouTube and finding all these people with the PC versions of the game who would upload a song you were a fan of, and then just seeing that thing played on the hardest difficulty. And I don't know, it's just really cool to watch the talent that was involved with that. Yep. So, all right, well.
So if you like Guitar Hero, definitely check that out. There's more news than I could convey. I'm not a big fan, so hopefully if you're interested, go look it up.
E3 is coming up, by the way, guys. E3, the big video game show of the year. So I'm sure as we get closer to that, we'll have more news about these games as well. So next up, let's go ahead and give our continuing impressions of the Family Guy Star Trek mobile game. Now, April 28th is the final day of the Star Trek content in the Family Guy game. We have both been playing since the start of it. As far as the game keeps going, they keep updating the game quite a bit, which I do appreciate that Tiny Co. is doing. But some of the, and again, we aren't big mobile gamers. We don't really drop money in mobile games. But it seems like a lot of the fetch quests in this game are having ridiculous cost at this point for payouts that maybe don't really agree with what the effort needing to be put into it. So I still like the use of the Star Trek license. The sound effects are great. All the things we're unlocking for our Quahog that we can like place in there as Star Trek items, I think are really fun.
Yeah, as of this week, if you've been playing the whole time, you can have all of your districts unlocked. So there are 5 different districts. They've got this districting system in the special content. The first was engineering,
engineering.
Engineering, and then you had 10 forward, the bridge, sick bay, and the holodeck just unlocked last night. The like 7 hours late.
Yeah.
But yeah, so all of those are unlocked now. The main complaint I have with that is that the way that they've done these release schedules, I seem to unlock this district's character like days into the next district unlocking.
Exactly.
So
it's not lining up well enough.
It isn't.
And you don't have enough time.
And also, when you've got something like Crusher, she has missions that help unlock Quagmire, but I don't have either of them yet.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. The release schedule is a little bit weird, and the way that you unlock things doesn't seem to always help with the future unlocks of things.
Right.
So, yeah.
Or you run into the problem, too, where there's a specific task that gives you a specific item to unlock a specific character. And then an update to the game happens or a new content is unlocked. And suddenly this only way you can get a specific item to get this specific character now becomes harder because now the specific task has multiple items for multiple characters. And you might have been 3 items away on a 50
but
item list.
But now it's going to take even longer.
Yeah, now it's going to take even longer because now it's breaking it up between 3 characters. So you're like, I almost had Dr. Crusher unlocked. Great, now I've got to wait on the random factor.
That literally just happened to me with Dr. Crusher because I'm 4 hypos away now from getting Dr. Crusher, but now the buildings that drop the hypos also drop anti-aging cream for Stewie, which I don't even have Stewie unlocked.
Exactly, right. So I still enjoying the game. I'm definitely glad that they did this. This was something that I think I would like to see a lot more game companies do with licensed stuff, especially with Star Trek stuff. Mm-hmm. We're going to keep playing through till the end. I would say overall my impressions are more positive than they are negative, and I think negative is kind of a strong word, but I am starting to get a bit frustrated with the unlocking system.
The free content that they have is actually really good.
Yes.
The cost of the premium content to me is just insane. Like, it's so expensive. I was going to mention this a couple weeks ago, but we didn't have a show. I considered, when I first started playing, I'm going to buy Worf, or I'm going to buy Guinan, or something like that. The problem was I assumed 100 clams would be like $1. 100 clams is not $1. It's like $6 or $7, or it's some weird conversion rate.
It's kind of like Xbox points back on the 360.
Well, and it's so different, too. Like, the character of Cleveland, I know, is 400 clams. That's like $20. And who's going to pay $20 for Cleveland? I'm sure there are people who have, but that's such a small fraction of people. And they just announced Spock today.
Yes,
265 clams. If you add up the cost of all the characters, it's something like $30, $40 to get them all. And I'm sorry, that's just too much. I'm not going to pay that much. I had considered getting these characters, but once I figured out the clam scheme, I'm so much less interested in getting them. If it were 100 clams equals $1.
Exactly, right. $1.99 a character, $2.99 a character, totally would have done it.
I'm not going to pay that much for all these different characters. Sorry, TinyCo.
And the difference, too, between mobile games and even console games is where I may not feel as upset about spending $60 on a console game, is there's more meat to the experience usually with the $60 games I'm buying. With this Family Guy game, there's a lot of content there if you just keep playing it over and over again, but the weight of the content, I guess, where I'm not getting a fully cinematic, story-driven experience, the mobile games are basically busy work games is what it seems like.
And let's say you spend 265 clams on Spock now. Yeah. 2 weeks from now, he's useless.
Yeah, exactly, right? The content that's attached to him is gone. Yeah. Now you just got Spock walking around your village. He can earn money, I guess, but there's only so much, that can only go so far.
I wish there were a way, like if I could pay to keep the Star Trek event running.
Oh, totally. I would totally do that. Yeah.
I would throw down for it now, and I would reverse all of my negativity on this game.
Every day we get close to the 28th, I'm like, man, that Enterprise is gone in 2 weeks, and I won't ever get to go to it again.
It's such a shame.
So, TinyCo, if you happen to be listening to our little show, maybe you can do something about that. I mean, we're telling you right now, if we can keep the Enterprise, you might get some money out of us. So. But, it's a fun experiment. It is. And I've still been running Simpsons at the same time. I still think Simpsons has a much better rate of income. Simpsons has its own events going on right now. But every time I turn on that Simpsons game, I have more money earned at once than I ever do in the Family Guy game. And I feel like I'm rewarded more, and I'm not working as hard in the Simpsons game to unlock more and more content. Oh, gosh.
You have to stay on top of the free content in the Star Trek game. Like we have, you have to play pretty much constantly.
You really do, yeah.
Like it's pretty insane. It's the fact that I'm a huge Star Trek fan is probably the only reason that I continue to play.
Otherwise, I might check in with Family Guy once a day. Yeah, if that. So, It's just interesting, though. I'm glad we did it.
Love the voice work.
Oh, yeah, the voice work is fantastic.
Like, they've definitely put a lot of work into the game. There are some weird things here and there, like the Batleth Clinic dropping forehead prosthetics and not Batleths.
Yeah.
But, I mean, and there are things like some of the references are so deep. Like,
yes.
The Riker one, the game's not big enough unless it scares you a little.
You're right, yeah.
I was like, I had to look that up. It's from Pen Pals.
Yeah. So, and there was, God, I'm trying to think of another one now that I just saw recently, but...
And when Troy looks at her wardrobe and it's got...
Yes,
like, all
exactly. Every
outfits.
outfit she ever wore. Yep. Yeah, I thought that was fantastic. So...
there's definitely some good stuff in there.
Also, there's just random things, like there's a jackpot box, I'll call it, where you can get random things. Inside of that, you got stuff like Spot the Cat. The game from the episode The Game is something you can unlock and have in your town. So, I mean, they definitely reached for all the fan service there. Yep. So, I'm happy on that front. I know it's a mobile game, and I know they want to make money, and I know that I haven't put any money into the game, but at the same time, I wish there wasn't so much content locked behind money. Yeah, well, and again, the main thing is, if I knew that it wouldn't all become useless, I'd be much more inclined to put money in. Yep. Because I'm just not going to, like, I actually had $4 of credit on my Amazon Kindle when I bought it. It was $5, but I spent $1 on it and something else. I put those $4 into the game. So I've paid, to some extent at least, and I'll probably end up buying one character, but I'm not going to buy more. Yeah. Like, they're just going to be useless. The money would be wasted, as far as I can tell. If I could keep that Star Trek version around, I would play a lot more. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up there. It looks like my battery's starting to go down, but we're going to just tell you really quick what we've been playing lately, guys, is actually the Star Trek mobile game. Yep. I haven't really had time for much else myself. I'm still doing the Marvel Puzzle Quest. Definitely see us at Cerebro616. Also, guys, my pick of the week, I guess, is going to be Daredevil. That was a great show on Netflix. I'm very happy that it's out there. Very glad that we got it. Greg, do you have a pick of the week that you want to do? Star Trek Continues. We got a new episode. Oh, yes. We need to watch that. Coming at Phoenix. Well, it's not out yet. I know, coming up at the next convention. May, but it's going to be at Phoenix Con, so hopefully we'll get to see that soon. Yeah, and if you guys haven't seen the previous Star Trek Continues episode, look them up on YouTube. Fantastic production. These guys probably really the best fan production I've seen. I would totally agree. One final thing I want to mention before we close, guys, is I have been giving out codes to free Marvel Comics on my Twitter account. Nobody's been retweeting or telling me that they've been getting these codes. So if you guys aren't following me on Twitter, there's at least 3 comic book codes up right now. Another one for Uncanny X-Men from this week is going to go up soon. So if you want free X-Men comics or free Marvel comics, really, follow me on Twitter and take those codes and let me know when you've used them. So, but that's our show for this week, guys. Thanks for joining us. We had a lot of content. I think we got through it at a pretty decent speed. Yeah. So we'll see you guys next week, and thanks for watching.